Hi. Yeah, it's the beginning of our last night now, so it's a big deal, and we've realised we've got a lot to talk about. Quite a few things that we sort of haven't spoken about in the past few vlogs. So I've actually got a piece of paper where we've jotted some stuff down. A brief recap of last night, because obviously you left us when we were in that sort of doorway of an office. That turned out to be a really good place to sleep. It was sheltered, kind of like really deep, if that makes sense. So it started to rain, but we didn't notice until we woke up and looked out and saw the rain. So that was really good. Damon had set an alarm on his phone for 7 o'clock because we realised that the office that we were in front of opened at 8. So we thought, well, if we get up at 7, then we'll be out of the way by the time people arrive. So, Damon's alarm went off at 7, or 10 to 7.
10 to 7.
And he poked me in the ribs and woke me up and said, oh, we have to get up now. And then about a minute and a half later, this bloke appeared in the thing and was like, oh, come on guys, get up, I've got to get into work. We're like, okay, sorry, we'll move now. We moved back here. We're back here outside Woolies again for the last night. So we get to go home tomorrow, which we were talking today, and we agreed we've kind of got mixed feelings about it. Really.
Yeah. I mean, basically comes to the realisation that what it's been like. I mean, and obviously we've not really been able to fully submerge ourselves like that, simply for the fact that we are doing this for charity, we're doing this for an event, we're doing this to raise awareness. So we're always going to have that kind of entry back into the real world. We're far more visible because of the signs that we've had. And basically, it's there basically because we've been together. Basically, it's a pair. Obviously, we've had loads of different elements as different from basically what homeless people actually have.
Also, the fact that we've known that we're doing it for 5 nights, and we're constantly in the back of our heads just being like, well, get through 5 nights and then get to go home.
You know it's done. But yeah, basically, we know that come tomorrow we'll be back within our houses, we're back in our beds,
shower.
Yeah, and that this merely basically was an experience. Whereas for all the people that we've engaged with, all the people who are actually homeless out on the streets, we know this is the real deal for them. Spoken to people basically who have been there for ranging from 7 months to a guy who strolled by a couple of days ago who'd actually been there for 20 years. And this is the reality. We've seen people both ranges, some people who've been both formerly alcoholics and drug users, some people who are either or, and even one guy basically who hadn't touched anything, and it's his second time being homeless. And you then kind of realise the individual aspects of each person, and basically that's what needs to be addressed, rather than, I guess, categorising homeless people into bands. Like, you could really do that. They are individual people with their individual problems.
We've got mixed feelings about going home, because we were both saying today, in the one sense, we were actually saying we've forgotten what it feels like to have a shower. But we remember that it must feel good. So that's the first thing I'm going to do when I go home. But actually, every time we start thinking about the first thing we're going to do when we get home, and how brilliant it's going to be when we're actually back at home in the warm and in our beds, and with a bathroom just along the corridor, every time we think that, we feel a little bit guilty, because
of all the people actually out on the streets at the moment, knowing that they don't have the opportunity to go home. This is the reality. It's not me.
We know that we get through this night.
That's that.
And that's that, and we can go home, and we know that so basically this last night is going to be the easiest thing of the whole experience, because we know that all we've got to do is get through that and leave. So we've been saying that every time we think about that, we feel really quite guilty. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. Generally, obviously, the one word that keeps coming up, actually two words, but they're the same. They're the same meaning, really. Mine is enlightening.
And mine is insightful.
So basically, it's been a massive learning experience. Just on so many levels.
I mean, aspects and levels which we wouldn't even be able to articulate ourselves fully. I mean, it's just kind of a range of emotions basically that are going through, that we have gone through, and we will continue to go through once obviously this, this is over. I mean, we've learned much about public perception. We've learned much about basically the homeless people themselves, so talking to a range of them, and we've learned a lot about ourselves as well, really, in regards to it.
Yeah. This evening we had to go up to university for a meeting that we were both obliged to be at. And whilst I was there, I bumped into one of my friends on my course, and he said, "Oh, where have you been?" And I was like, "Oh, well, you've been out on the streets." And I just briefly got talking to him about his attitude to homeless people and how it is that he relates to them and stuff. And he says that when he's in the street, if he's got the time and if he's got the cash, then he'll stop and he'll say hi and give a guy on the streets or a woman on the streets a couple of quid or however much he's got. But he said, "Oh, I feel so bad," because I was explaining to him how angry I get when I see people just walk past us or deliberately ignore us, which is even worse. And he said, "Oh, well, sometimes I do that." And I was like, "Well, yeah, to be honest, sometimes so did I. If I didn't have the time to stop and chat or I didn't have the change on me, then I'd just walk on." But I said to him, the one thing that I've learned, if there's one thing, which there isn't, there's thousands, but if there is one thing, just one thing that I've learned from this whole experience, is that even if you haven't got time to sit down and have a proper chat, or you haven't got the money to give someone a quid or two, the best thing you can do is just walk past, even if you're in a hurry, walk past and just say hello.
Just acknowledge them. Just acknowledge
Smile,
them.
or doff your cap, or whatever. If anyone doffs their cap nowadays still, but whatever. Like, just say hello. Just walk past and say hello and smile.
Simply acknowledge them. I mean, so many people walk past to a point where it's literally just statistics in their mind. Well, there goes another one. There goes another one. To a point where you even try to phase it out. I mean, the amount of times I've seen homeless people out on the streets and they've got their heads down, and you can see why they've got their heads down, because they simply don't want to look up at the world, look up at the amount of people that are walking by in their merry little lives, basically, whilst they're there in the background and have been ignored. So basically, just acknowledging, simple acknowledgement really, really does make the world a difference. I mean, and it's something as well that stems boredom, because you've got someone who's like finding like, well, yeah, look, I'm here. This person's realised that I'm not merely something in the background anymore.
Just someone acknowledging you out of hundreds of people who walk past
makes the world of difference.
It really does make the world of difference. And if you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people who will just acknowledge, just smile, or just say hi, it really will make a massive difference in the lives of people living on the streets.
That's us saying that after spending 4 nights here, being our 5th night now.
That's the word, because that is, that brings me on to what I've been telling people is actually the worst thing about being on the streets is during the daytime. Most people would think it's the night, and initially, coming into this experience, I thought it would be the nighttime, because obviously it's sleeping out on the street where it's dangerous and it's cold and it's uncomfortable, and but actually the nighttime is really relatively easy. You just try and keep warm and try and sleep.
Make sure you find a safe spot if you're by yourself, but because basically we've been in a group as well, bare minimum of 3 every time. We know we've got that safety, we've got protection in numbers, we always have our backs.
But the daytime is the worst. All you've got to do is sit and watch people go past, and people will either stop and have a chat, which has been good. We have had an awful lot of people who have, so it's not all terrible, but the vast majority of people will walk past and will either deliberately ignore you, like you can tell that they're actually deliberately averting their eyes.
By doing something simple like looking at their watch for an extended period of time as they
or
cross.
Just very definitely looking straight ahead, which people don't normally do when they're walking down the street.
Or basically
pulling a face. Walking past and pulling a face, that's the worst one.
In our case, reading the sign, stopping, actually acknowledging the sign, and making like a brash comment, a noise or a sigh, looking at us in a in a negative manner, basically, as if we're doing something wrong as a result of this. Things like that.
Anyway, so for me, in my experience of being out here, that's the worst thing. The worst thing is the people So, you know, people watching this video and learning, hopefully trying to maybe learn from our experience, please just don't ignore people on the streets. Just walk past and smile or say hi. That really would make a